How's everybody doing today? I hope everybody's having a phenomenal day. I know I am. Today we are going to talk. We have 3 videos lined up. I might do a 4th. It depends on the day. We've got a lot going on over here. But we are going to talk about the question of, are you getting too much protein? And it's a review of Brett Cooper's review of this statement that's recently been made. Recently, the health people, the public health officials from the FDA, I don't know, it's actually the FDA, so it doesn't really need air quotes, but from the FDA and the CDC and a bunch of people are trying to pretty much make you think that ingesting protein is what's bad for you. That's why everybody's fat and sickly and shit. And too much of it can be just deadly for you. Who cares about like the fact that the government tells you to ingest 6 to 11 servings of ultra-processed food a day? It's the meat, yes. Because clearly, like vegetarians like Bill Gates, who believes in fake meats and fake food and all that shit, clearly he is in better shape than me, who eats mostly meat, who's on no medications. Clearly. We would be dumb to think that Bill Gates wasn't in better health than me, right? Because he clearly doesn't eat meat, and I brag about how much red meat I eat. So clearly, he is much healthier than me, or people like me. It's that stupid. We've gotten to be that dumb in society that, oh yeah, it's the red meat that we've eaten for our entirety of evolution. It's the meat that's bad for us, not the brand new, not even eaten before 40 or 50 years ago, food-like products that we're creating. Yeah, the introduction of the food-like products that just happens to coincide with rises in obesity, Alzheimer's, autism, type 2 diabetes, cancers, like those foods that happen to just coincide with the rise of all of these things and the massive expenditure of public health and our healthcare system that coincide again with the rise of ultra-processed foods. It's of course not the ultra-processed foods, because that would fuck with their ad revenue. You see, it's actually the meat. Yeah, it's the meat that's bad for us. Yeah. The meat is bad for us. Like that's why people like me that eat predominantly meat and rest whole foods, that's why we are in way worse physical shape than, the Secretary of Health, Richard Walensky. Or is that his name? Walensky? Oh, Richard Levine. Levinsky was the lying CDC director that told everybody that, whether they were pregnant or not, they should get the jab, even though we hadn't done any testing, right? So there has been this thing in the last decade or two trying to demonize, 3 decades, I guess, trying to demonize red meat and eggs. So you don't need to think I'm the best at what I do. I'm sure there's people that are better at what I do than what I do, but I can tell you this. As a person that has lost 100 pounds, kept it off myself, coached thousands of people to healthier weights by managing their hunger and their lifestyle skills and everything like that, if I could only eat 2 foods ever again, it would be eggs and red meat. Eggs and red meat. I could live on eggs and red meat for the rest of my life, happily and likely healthily. Just so you know. It's crazy that we're really where it's at. We are in the stages of full-on fucking stupid-ass crazy. That's where that's where I think we're at, is in the stages of full-on stupid-ass crazy. Let's go to it, though. This is Brett Cooper. We are going to play her at 1.5 speed, because she does talk decently slow for my brain. I'm not saying she is slow. I'm just saying she talks decently slow. So here we go.
So today, we have a lovely episode that is inspired by Vox, because yesterday, good old Vox, the publication, posted a tweet that made waves on social media for all the wrong reasons. But I mean, should we even be surprised at this point? Because their entire social media and marketing strategy is just to post the most outlandish pieces possible in order to get clicks. But sadly...
It's very, very, very likely. It's very true.
I think that they do actually believe the things that they are publishing, which is just even worse. And we should care and we should pay attention because this time it's about our health. Did you subscribe yet? You really should subscribe to this channel. And if you have already subscribed, you should then like this best with protein. They eat about 2 times as much of it as fun, and I hope you do too. Okay, so the tweet and the article in question was this. Americans are obsessed with protein. They eat about 2 times as much of it as the federal government advises. Oh no. And
the federal government's advising any advice the federal government has given you on how much protein, fat, carbohydrates, vitamin D, all that shit is mostly fucking stupid. The federal government's guideline on vitamin D is 600 IUs a day. I take 10,000 during the fucking winter. Like 5,000 is easily seen as supplemental, you know, like easily. It's the federal government, like the federal government brought you the food pyramid.
60% of U.S. adults are trying to get even more of it in their diets. Oh no, Americans are trying to be healthier in the midst of an obesity crisis.
I call this turf and turf. It's a 16-ounce T-bone and a 24-ounce porterhouse. Also,
So yeah.
whiskey and a cigar.
Excessive protein consumption could be making us sick. It is also wrecking the planet. How
How could it be making us sick? I mean, I've heard the whole like people talk about, cardiovascular disease because the cholesterol and all like that. Like, people realize that the fat you eat doesn't just go into your arteries, right? It how it gets digested. It doesn't like seep through your stomach into your fucking bloodstream. It like gets metabolized and processed and shit like that. It's so crazy. Like, don't eat eggs because they're bad for you. Does everybody realize that the choline in an egg yolk is pretty much the perfect fuel for your endocrine system? Like, that's the building block by which testosterone, estrogen, those sorts of things are made with. That the choline in an egg will help with brain function and hormone levels and stuff like that. It's ridiculous that we're even here. Like to say, like, you're getting twice as much as what the federal government suggests you get. My suggestion is don't listen to the fucking federal government. The federal government should have no business in our health at all. The federal government's entire fucking job is to protect our border, provide common defense, and protect our rights. You don't protect somebody's rights by telling them what they're fucking have to do, supposed to do. Who gives a flying fuck about the federal government says you're supposed to do for your fucking health? It is not their job to even determine what we are supposed to do for our health. It is their job to possibly give us all the information, but they shouldn't be making public health suggestions because they don't have any fucking authority to make those public health suggestions. When we did all these mandates and shit, every single one of them was unconstitutional, and every single person that did one should, in fact, be tried for treason. FYI, just my little rant. Right there.
protein should you actually eat per day? Find out here. And in less than 48 hours, it has almost 3 million impressions on Twitter alone. And
Just so everybody knows, I probably eat somewhere between 200 and probably between 150 and 220 grams of protein in a day, depending on the given day.
again, like I said, for all the wrong reasons. My favorite comment was, you guys are a bunch of soy boys. Literally, because they don't eat meat, apparently.
Yeah.
They are literally just sitting around writing these articles eating tofu. The other top comments were perfect. One guy said, as the federal government advises, the obesity epidemic should render anyone a laughingstock who believes anything the government says about food. Obviously, because...
Exactly. If the federal government was suggesting these things, the federal government is suggesting eating X amount of protein. But the federal government's suggestions have what's gotten America fat as fuck. Like, their suggestion, their input on our food behaviors, their input on what foods get pushed, they're subsidizing certain industries. The federal government has made us all fat. Well, not me, because I've lost my fat because I stopped listening to their fucking guidelines. Like, the thing is, the federal government's suggestion for how much protein you should have, keep in mind that their suggestions are the reason why we have 500-pound people working at Walmart instead of at the fucking circus.
How has that worked out for us? How has following their health guidelines worked out for anyone? Consider that seriously. Another person said, I remember when the federal government told us to eat 7 servings of bread a day. Oh, yes, exactly. In order to keep your heart healthy. Heart healthy fiber. We did a whole episode about this, about how the federal government is lying to us about our health and food, obviously, and is not so secretly paid off by big food. It is such a good watch.
Yeah, they're paid off by big food. Like the FDA, the USDA, their advisory boards are made up of like the CEOs of all the food companies and shit. Like, you're being played, all of you. Like, I get on here every day and I talk about shit. It is so much deeper than what people even realize. How fucked up this all is, right? They are telling you to eat non-food items. They're telling you to eat food-like products in predominance that they know, that they're sure, that it is not guess. It is scientific, factual, and consensus that ultra-processed foods in fact, cause inflammation, neuroinflammation, degeneration of the brain, like decrease in chronic or decrease in cognitive function, decrease in executive function, that they help cause inflammation. It causes insulin resistance, which causes type 2 diabetes, non-alcoholic fatty liver disease. They're bad for your kidneys. They're bad for your liver, heart, lungs. They're bad for you. Ultra-processed foods should be eaten for pleasure only. We should view all ultra-processed foods, especially those with added sugar, with the same care that we treat with alcohol. Absolutely. I mean, the federal government saying that something's unhealthy, they would likely know because they're the experts on telling us shit to do that's unhealthy. But if they're telling you to do something, I tend to want to do the fucking opposite because what they tell you to do is massively unhealthy. Don't eat meat, says the federal government. The federal government has everybody fat as fuck. Like, we realize this, right? Like, the federal government has everybody fat as fuck.
In conjunction with this episode, I pop off on it. It's one of my favorites we've ever done because it's our health, it's our bodies, and they're lying to us. Anyway, back to the article. Their argument against meat is twofold. Number one, Americans are eating too much protein, and protein is killing us. They say that
How do they even? That's bullshit.
Americans should be eating around 0.36 grams of protein per pound of weight, and they cite the National Academies of Science for this. But here's the kicker: according to the National Academies and the Institute of Medicine, this guideline is for the minimum amount of protein you should be eating in order to not fall into a deficit, which is outlined here in an article by Eating Well. The IOM's recommendations set the minimum amount of protein you need to eat in order to avoid falling short of this vital nutrient. Not getting enough protein could lead to
How many hours do
So see how they do it? They take the words from one segment and then they fucking make it their standard. It's ridiculous.
aggressive muscle loss and other health issues. Recent research suggests that aiming for more, for example, between 1.3 grams and 1.8 grams per kilogram of body weight, approximately 88 grams to 122 grams for women, 105 grams to 145 grams for men, may be optimal for health, especially when it comes to warding off age-related muscle loss, according to a 2019 review in Nutrients. Interesting how Vox did not discuss that. Also,
Right?
women specifically, you probably should be eating a lot more protein than you are right now. Like, I did not realize how little protein I was eating every day until I started actually tracking it, and it is key for us if we want to regulate our hormones and lose weight, gain muscle, etc. Like, women do not eat enough protein, do not listen to Vox. Community Notes almost immediately jumped in with this banger, and they said the tweet is written to imply that one can have too much protein. Current research does not support this assertion, and the tweet greatly oversimplifies protein consumption research. Instead, research points towards eating protein sources that have a package of benefits, almost like whole foods, almost like animal byproducts. Crazy!
Yeah, right? See, what they don't tell you is that there's really not an upper limit to, like, if you just ate all protein, if you ate 2,000 calories of protein in a day, you'll likely be okay. Like, the whole craziness that carnivore diet, keto diet, and stuff like that is unhealthy for you is ridiculous. If you're supplementing just the same way you would need to supplement if you're vegetarian or vegan, because there is holes on both of those, in all of these extreme nutritional programs. But some people need to eat in an extreme way. Like, I have several clients that need to stay on keto. Every time we try to get them off keto, they end up binging. They need to stay on keto for the rest of their life. We need to make it accessible, and we need to make it a lifestyle, so we do so. And they need to supplement because of it. Instead of just eating like all whole foods, they're missing out on a few things that we make sure that they get a good multivitamin. We make sure that they supplement vitamin D, vitamin K. We make sure they supplement all these things so they have what is seen as they don't have any holes in their micro or macronutrients. Nutrients. Where's the fucking ADHD? Nutrients. What the fuck, dude? The fuck? Get in your corner. But see, ADHD made me lose my place. But in reality, now I remember where in reality, like, there's no upper limit on what you can eat, like, with it. It's stupid to think the thing that we have eaten in predominance to evolve to this point up until about 60 years ago is bad for you. It's so stupid. It's just, I mean, it takes next level dumbness, you know?
The vegans don't like that. One commenter on Instagram, because they also posted this on Instagram, said, "This is irresponsible. You're going according to the RDA, which is a number that's the floor. RDAs are created as the absolute minimum to avoid disease. For example, the federal RDA of vitamin C is the absolute minimum you need to eat to avoid getting scurvy. Same for vitamin D and rickets. Posting this and allowing an aging population and an obese population to think that they don't need protein when it in fact is the number one way to avoid bone density loss is not only irresponsible journalism, it is harmful. Rethink this." Absolute mic drop. I also love that she brought in some other vitamins and nutrients in this comment because obviously protein is far from the only thing that we are lacking in our modern diets. Just like your dogs are probably lacking all of this in their breath, boost energy levels, and have been devouring their grain to redeem that deal. Citing has been telling us that fiber is king and processed foods are better for us than animal products like eggs and butter and meat for over 50 years. Take a look at our health. How has that worked out for us? Again, I ask you.
I haven't even watched this. Go ahead. Go with your bad self, Brett. Go ahead. I listen. She's about to literally do the little speech I just gave you guys earlier, but here you go.
For the entire episode, how has listening to them worked out for us?
You took my only food. No, I'm gonna starve.
Again, for more details on this, watch the episode in the description. There's a long history
Right.
of them doing this. And guys, if all of this meat is causing heart issues, then why does every cancer research foundation and cardio organization publish pieces like this? Ultra-processed foods are breaking your heart. Then this one is from the
Yep.
World Cancer Research Fund. Ultra-processed foods link to increased cancer risk, diabetes, and heart disease. This one cracked me up because it is from 2 months ago, and the first line once you get into the study is, in a groundbreaking study.
Yeah, groundbreaking. Like, oh, we didn't know this shit.
It was published in November of 2023. Yeah, groundbreaking to you, apparently. People with common sense have known this all along. It's the medical industrial complex that has been telling us not to cut carbs and not
Medical industrial complex. It's a real thing.
to focus on natural whole foods, and that actually Cheerios are great for heart health. Like, it's you guys that have been lying to us. Give me a break. Anyway, now that we have gone over that, we can discuss Vox's second problem with protein, the impact on the planet. And they said excessive protein consumption is also wrecking the planet, with meat and dairy production accounting for upwards of 1/5 of greenhouse gas emissions. Are you bought and paid for by Bill Gates? Because it sure sounds like it. Just saying. Now, ironically, though, they did not touch on this at all in this article. But not to worry, they do have an entire series called Meatless, where they cover all of this in a 5-day e-course that you can buy. Yippee! I know everybody after this episode will be jumping for joy at the thought of joining Meatless through Vox.
I ate his liver.
So here's my thought process behind that. So we're worried that meat consumption adds, what, 20% more carbon emissions, right? Well, you know what also adds 20% more carbon emissions? Fat people. Like a study done a while ago, it's likely much more, but I think it's between 20 and 40% more carbon emissions is what a fat person puts out into the environment than a lean person. 20 to 40% more. So if we were serious about the environment, Vox would be telling fat people to lose some fucking weight. If you anybody that's talking climate bullshit, if you aren't screaming at the top of your fucking lungs for people to stop over-consuming food, especially ultra-processed food-like products that take a lot to manufacture, package, distribute, transport, those sorts of things, if you aren't actually touching on that, like minimizing those types of foods and having people unfucking fatten themselves, you're just talking shit. You aren't serious about the planet. If you're talking about carbon in general and you aren't bringing up fat people, you're stupid on multiple factors because carbon emissions, plants use carbon, you fucking idiots. It's like you realize that, like, carbon dioxide is needed for plant life, right? Like, it's just dumbness on an immense level. And we don't give a shit about private jets for the people that talk about climate change to fly all over the place. We don't give a fuck about that. They can't Zoom shit. They gotta go places because they need the pictures, right? We don't talk about fat people over-consuming and emitting more carbon. Like, if we were serious, if we really thought carbon was the thing, we got fucking 400 fucking pound people. The Richard Levine, the fucking healthcare administrator for the United States, or the assistant healthcare administrator for the United States, is fat as fuck himself. I mean, it's just clown show that we're even talking about this.
Liver with some fava beans and a nice Chianti.
Again, how much did Bill Gates pay you to push this? Because we all know that he's been on this train for years. This one is from 2021. Bill Gates' rich nations should shift entirely to synthetic beef. And he claims, and his friends and the experts claim, that we have to do this for the health of the planet. But what about the fact that the energy it takes to create all of this processed crap food and the synthetic plant-based fake meat is worse
Right.
for the environment than raising
Right.
cattle? In fact, grass-fed cattle actually helps reduce carbon emissions, but nobody really wants to talk about that. All the environmentalists, they don't want to say that because they've been promoting being a vegan for so long. So if they actually said grass-fed cattle was good for you,
Yeah, grass-fed cattle actually has a benefit for greenhouse gases. I know it's so.
oh, they'd have to roll back every other ethical standard
Yep.
that they have adopted. Wouldn't work out for them. This is from Oregon State University. A new study finds that grass-fed beef reduces carbon footprint. And this summary wrote that the National Trust, which is a conservation nonprofit in the United Kingdom, determined that grass-fed beef production had actually reduced greenhouse gas emissions when the carbon sequestration and storage of grassland pasture was considered. Another environmentalist
Right.
wrote that when soil lacks important microbes and nutrients like carbon, it can actually contribute to desertification. And that is part of the reason why grass-fed animals are so vital to the planet. Raising cattle keeps soil healthy because microbes are basically kind of hitching a ride in the ruminant's
Yep.
gut and through the animal, and then returning the nutrients to the soil through waste. It keeps its moisture. When you don't have animal poop fertilizer, you have to mine sources of nitrogen to take its place. And the problem is that we're rapidly running out of this resource, and the artificial fertilizers aren't the answer. It's so
Right.
ironic that we talk in circles. We're running out of this. We can't do this. We can't create more of this. It's going to kill the planet when we literally can make it naturally with animals
Yeah.
that exist
Yeah.
on our planet. Like, grass-fed cattle is one of the oldest and most natural things that we have ever done as a species. Eating beef is a tale as old as time. Cattle and other livestock like it play a vital role in protecting our soil and our other natural resources, not to mention they help our physical health.
You know what they say, Vegeta. When you fall off that horse, you get right back up and you eat that horse.
So why is the mainstream media and people like Bill Gates so hell-bent on demonizing this practice and this source of food? Is because it makes
Money. They're doing this because of money. And the fatter and sicker we are, the more they will need the people will need the pharmaceuticals. Like when you peel back the curtain and you see the coordinated effort between government, big pharma, healthcare, food, and other industries, when you see the coordinated effort to try to manage every aspect of your life to make you fat, sickly, dependent upon the government, dependent upon the pharmaceutical industry, when you are beholden to the government to help you regulate how much you need to pay for the medications that keep you alive because you've eaten the foods that government has subsidized for you to eat, that is a fucking problem, right? The government subsidizes sugar and wheat and all the ultra-processed foods with our tax dollars in the billions. We then eat these foods and they are cheaper than other foods because they are subsidized by the US government and taxpayer. So then the taxpayer buys this cheap fucking crap that they then ingest because it is cheaper due to the government subsidizing the industry, that then makes them fat and sick. So then they need to turn to the government again to say, help me pay for my medical bills. Make sure you regulate insurance companies and all this bullshit. And then the insurance company sees that you need these medications and they like it. They don't offer you lifestyle mitigation. They don't tell you how to get healthy and not need medications. They get to charge for that medication and they get 15% no matter what. And then the pharmaceutical industry doesn't actually help you change your life. No, they just treat your illness that you got from listening to the fucking government and eating what the government puts on the plate first with their subsidies. Tell me that's not actually accurate. Tell me that's not accurate. Somebody, anybody, can anybody in the comment section tell me that that was inaccurate? Because if you can't say that that's inaccurate, you have to admit that it is a humongous, damn near criminal organization involving the government, big food, big pharma, the lobbyists, and all the elites. I mean, that is insanity. How do we not see this? How can we not see this? Somebody said you shouldn't be able to purchase junk food with food stamps. 10% of all SNAP stuff, this is from the Callie Means interview with Tucker Carlson, 10% of all SNAP's dollars, like food stamp dollars, is in soda. Sugary soda. They want you sick and fat and on the government teat. They want you to be dependent upon them because you're a slave. It's not dependence, it's slavery. They're enslaving all of us because they can enslave these very weak people. I mean, if in reality, if all of a sudden, and I want everybody to think about this real quick, right? If the federal government today stopped subsidizing the healthcare industry, if we made it so lifestyle-driven chronic illnesses had to be paid for 100% out of the pocket of the person who has gluttoned themselves, smoked themselves, drank themselves, whatever themselves, into that physical state, right? So should they have to, if we would make it so they would have to pay for everything for that disease, that chronic illness, out of their own pocket, how many people would make it? Like, we've got 60% of the population on at least one medication a day. 60 fucking percent. That's insane, people. That is an insane burden. Insane. We've got 60% of the population on at least one daily medication from eating the foods that the government has told you are not only good, that should be eaten in predominance, but they have also used your taxpayer money to subsidize that industry to make it cheaper for the people that run big sugar and make billions of dollars in profit, and the people that run big food companies and make billions of dollars in profit, we have made it cheaper for them by subsidizing those industries with billions of dollars of taxpayer money. We have made them able to make their products cheaper while still hitting their profit line, so we then eat it. Tell me that that is not a criminal conspiracy on a massive level. Massive. Obesity is a national security crisis. Nobody sees it. I do, and I've been screaming it for years now. It is a national security crisis. First of all, we can't defend ourselves physically. Like, I'm old, motherfuckers. Like, that's a young person's thing. You should fucking, like, the young people got to go do that shit if we need to defend our fucking borders. I'll defend my house, but my time of kissing my wife goodbye and fucking going off to do some bullshit in a foreign land is done. All right, that ain't happening to this motherfucker. But we literally, if we can't even get enough people in our military. However, the real problem is if the pharmaceutical industry would just shut off pharma for a fucking 2 months, they could kill 50 million people in America. For real, 50 million. It's a huge number. I grew up on food stamps, and we got food stamps. My mom would make a celebration thing by buying ice cream, chips, candy, snacks, cakes, and such for us. That is a shame. I'm very sorry to hear that. You're right. These unhealthy clowns shouldn't have their issues if they were being bailed out. They wouldn't have their issues if they weren't being bailed out by via taxpayer money. I'm sorry, but people are like, I can't lose weight. I can't lose weight. I can't lose weight. If all of a sudden you had to pay for all of the medical expenses out of your own pocket for your chronic illnesses because you weigh 400 pounds, I bet you'd be able to lose weight then. I bet you, if given a lack of options, you would lose some fucking weight. I bet you would. I bet you if we stopped ass patting and coddling people, they would get their shit together. I bet you they would. Irony of fat activism and media screaming about $1 million diet industry, not a peep about the $1 billion fast food industry. I know, it's crazy. It's crazy. My husband is in the U.S. Air Force. They're job merging since they're job merging jobs since they are so little people joining, and most people are failing the PT test after standards have been lowered. It's fucking sad. That's pathetic bullshit. Just patheticness. All right, people. I'm about to sign off. We're about to do another one. Be back in 3 minutes. Goddamn.